Welcome everyone. I am SpaceGlitterUnicorn. This session is focused on creating avatar clothing that sells. Alrighty, so what an exciting time to be a creator. Now everyone has the chance to design avatar clothing. The best part is you're not alone. There's a whole community of creators leading the way and sharing their knowledge. So be sure to check out YouTube channels and Instagrams to soak up tips, tricks, and inspiration on all things avatar creation, avatar clothing creation. So let's look at that creator website. Alrighty, so this is the horizon.meta.com/creator, and we are going down to where it says item inventory. This is where you will find all your items that you have previously posted, including some tabs, some really important tabs. Like for example, you have your items, in-world items. I basically, uh, you can basically narrow everything down. So now we're going to go to this blue button here. This is the magic button for the create avatar item. If we click on here you get our long library of really cool silhouettes. That's what we like to call it now, is silhouettes. So you have all of your shirts, you have your bottoms, you have your shoes. And now with the new items, we have dresses, and then we have really exciting one pieces, including this armor, which I have yet to play around with. And admittedly, I really love it though. I love that we have this. So it's super exciting. Let's talk about AI, the fun about prompting clothes with AI. So we have some fast prototyping. AI lets you see your clothing idea in minutes instead of hours. So you can try out like more concepts. Make the art your own. So even though AI gives you a starting point, you can always tweak, paint, or remix it into your own unique design. Endless inspiration. You'll never run out of ideas. And AI can generate textures, fabrics, or styles you might not have thought of. And then you can experiment without limits. It's a safe space to play, no wasted materials or time, just pure experimentation. And you can boost creativity. AI can surprise you with results that spark new directions, helping you grow as a creator. So it's time to make some stuff. So let's play around with this AI. Let's go back. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and create this avatar item. Which silhouette should I choose, guys? Sound off in the chat. Like, which one should I play around with first? Hoodie. Okay. Let's go with the hoodie. I will go with, I like a fall sweater. Okay, I'll do the hoodie first, and then I'll go down the line. All right, so what's cool about our community is people have really pushed the limits on what these silhouettes can do. Like for example, you see a hoodie, but people have turned these hoodies into like armor or like uniforms, like really cool stuff. So sound off in the chat. What should I put as the prompt for this one hoodie? And don't be afraid to get creative. A janitor, all right. What color? So janitor's uniform. I would say, I don't know, hunter green. Hunter green. I see orange, so with orange detail. All right. Halloween theme. All right, we could do that after. I like a good Halloween theme. Spooky season is coming. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and generate. Let's see what we got. I like that we can zoom in. So with your middle mouse button, you can zoom in and out, which is really, really cool. Let's see. It does take time, right? So I'm gonna go for a coffee break. I'll be back. Drink some water. I'm telling you, we need that lo-fi music. Whoa. Okay. What do you guys think about this style? This is not bad. Not bad at all. This kind of reminds me of like a football team or something, to be honest. So maybe this janitor works at a local college, and this is his uniform. Makeup story, right? Hunter x Hunter vibes. Oh yeah, I do like that one. It's not bad. One thing to note is you could sit here and save as many of these textures as you like instead of like starting over and over again. For example, do, do, do. So I go here to this next tab and I can download the current texture, right? And so I can keep prompting with AI and just kind of like mass produce these AI textures. That way you're not like going one at a time. It just makes time more efficient if you want to just sit here and jam out, over some coffee and some music. Like really, really just pump them out and see what you get. And I highly recommend taking these AI images and tweaking them on your favorite photo editing software, to make it your own, to make it your style. Like let's say like some lines don't add up the way you want it. You could easily just fix that. It's super cool. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and save this item just because. Do, do, do. So let me open this up. And there we have it. This is how the texture is produced. Really cool. The AI is pretty cool because it actually gives some wrinkles. And it looks pretty, it looks nice. It looks really nice. So yeah, highly recommend experimenting as much as you can with this AI, making it your own. Okay, you can download the model. Downloading the model is a different process, right? And I'm going to go over that later when I go over all tips and tricks for Blender. So let's talk about the photo editing software that fits my needs. So GIMP, I usually recommend either GIMP or Krita. GIMP is an open source, is very powerful, supports layers, masks, and plugins. Krita, originally for digital painting, but great for editing photos too. I do like Krita because Krita, I find it easy to find really good paintbrushes in there. So that's up to you whether you want to dive down into that free software. Photopea. Photopea is browser based, works almost exactly like Photoshop, so no install needed. So today we're going to be covering a little bit of Photopea. So let me pull that website up really quick. Here is the Photopea website in case you guys want to follow along, play around with it. If you like Photoshop and don't want to pay for Photoshop again, Photopea is the way to go. Alrighty, so let's jam out. I'm gonna go ahead and somebody said they wanted to see fall sweater. So I'm gonna go ahead and just download really quick. I'm gonna choose one of these sweaters. They're super easy. This guy here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to download the design files for this. So it comes with the UVs and it also comes with um, this this main like kind of like a default texture. The reason this texture is kind of important, let's say you wanted to design your item along with the normal maps that are provided. So normal maps are basically the bumps and ridges in a 3D model. It's not necessarily the geometry on the 3D model, it's more like detailing. So each one of these items and silhouettes have their own normal map that we don't have access to. We cannot tweak them, we cannot we cannot redo the normal maps. Unfortunately, I wish we could, because then details galore, right? But we're going to take it a step back and we're going to use what we have. So for example, if I were to download this file and kind of use those normal maps to my advantage, I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to download this. Yeah, okay. And it gives you a zip file. So I'm going to go ahead and take out this zip file really quick, drag it onto my desktop. And a reminder is be sure to utilize your folders, make folders, because your desktop can easily get all messy. I speak from experience. I'm constantly making junk drawers for all the stuff that I put on my desktop. So definitely do yourself the favor. I had already made an avatar folder, avatar clothing folder. So here I go. I'm going to drop that file in. I'm going to right click and I'm going to extract all. Once I've extracted all, now I see my items here. So I have the first one is the texture. So if you wanted to do some like actual stylized texture paint, you can do that. You know, you can get brushy and painty with those ridges. So that's up to you whether you want to put in that work. I personally do like to put in that work. So you're the artist, seasoned to your own taste. Texture, and we also have the UV guide. I hope you guys can see this, but the UV guide actually shows where the UV islands are. So quick overview on what UVs and UV islands are. If you do not know, basically your 3D object is basically cut along the seams, like as if you were a seamstress, right? That's what we're working with. We're working with fashion. So this is like a sewing pattern. So what it's doing is you've cut all the seams and you laid all of your panels flat. So your 3D model has been turned into a 2D object. So you can play, you know, be artsy and stuff. So, and then afterwards you put it all together and you sew that back up and you're back to a 3D piece. So it's really cool concept. Alrighty, so let's get to work. So I'm gonna just drag my first texture over, and I'm also going to drag this UV guide in. Perfect. So now you can see where those UV lines are. So this guy does not have to exist after you make your artwork, but it's good for reference. Usually when I do my art, if I were to turn down this opacity a bit, I have the guides still there, but they're not too distracting. So that's one thing good to note. Another thing good to note is I usually like to overlay patterns and textures over this this first background. So for example, let's say I found online a really cool like seamless texture, which we can look up really quick. I'm going to do something very generic so you guys can. So I have this kind of like canvas style texture, right? But I want those details on this guy. So I'm going to just overlap this to show through that. You don't have to do it this way. This is just kind of like one method I use to get some details out of this. So for example, I usually like to work with the levels on this particular piece, meaning this guy here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to image on top and I go to adjustments. After adjustments, I go to the levels. And here we're going to play around with the monotone you know, levels, the contrast, and basically the highs and lows. So the brights and the darks. So dark meaning low, white meaning kind of like if you were to take your shirt and the high ridge, if you pinch it, the highest ridge will be the lightest. So that really gives like a lot of really good detail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this white down so that the white, don't trust the process. And then I am going to bring up the dark. right? In this mid area. Here we go. Now it's a bit more prominent, so you can see those features really well. And like I said, with the normal maps being visible this way, you could go in and really paint in those textures to give details. So for example, if I wanted to be really super artsy, I'm going to go ahead and create this new layer. And I am working on a XP pen tablet, so it allows me to paint right on my screen. So I'm going to go here to this brush tool, and let's say painting right over this. Hold on one second. Let me go to brushes. And it's up to you guys to really dive deep into what these brushes can give. But right now, I'm just keeping it super simple, just so you guys can see like the technical aspect of this. I'm not going for perfection, so don't yell at me. Another thing is, let's say I wanted to use kind of like this navy blue. All right, let's close this out a bit, and then you can go in and really, whoops, like, and really paint in those features, right? Really get artsy artsy, you know, like make your own style. And then I'm gonna switch this color. Now I got something going on here. And if you needed more on like where you're painting, like the guides, just turn on that guide and, you know, let the creativity take you where you need to go, right? All right, cool. So that's one way to do it. This is my absolute favorite way, because then, you know, your items start to look like actual artwork. And you could take as much time as you need to get it done. You know, this is not the most streamlined way, but it does work. Okay, so hold on a second. Let me finish it off a little bit. Just this front part. Okay, cool. Now that I have basically my desired item here, now what to do with this canvas cross stitch? I'm going to go ahead and just turn this off. What I can do is now play with this layer overlay settings. So for example, I can go to multiply, and now I can see the details that I've just did, and then I could also see, you know, the fabric stitching, you know, and I could take it a step further. I can lower the opacity just a bit, or I can, you know, play around with the other overlays. So for example, like there are many to choose from. Some do not work, of course. Overlay is okay, but it's not my jam. Like some of them will work more than others depending on the colors you use, the color values, and all that stuff. But in this scenario, we could do multiply. Multiply is just fine, right? Okay, cool. So now let's say we're super happy with this. I could even slap a logo on this if I wanted to, but I'm going to keep it simple just for the sake of being able to cover everything I need to cover, because there is a good amount. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to file save changes. Um, I can also export as that PNG, because we can only accept PNG in there, and make sure that the size is that 1024 by 1024. Alrighty, and so I'm going to go ahead and actually rename this. I don't know, demo one, save. So now it's saved to your downloads. Let's take this to the website to see what that looks like. So now it's easy as just dragging and dropping to this window here. And now I have my piece, my silhouette, my sweater. It's so fancy. I mean, not, but you get what I'm saying. In whatever you make, I know it's going to be beautiful, absolutely awesome, but just so you know, like that's basically super easy. So let's get to the next step here. So that is Photopea. It would be up to you guys to definitely take that as far as you'd like. Alrighty, so let's do some texture painting in Procreate. I know a lot of people do love Procreate, especially because it's so accessible. You can basically take your iPad anywhere and just doodle, right? I personally do love to paint with Procreate in many different things. And what's exciting about Procreate is you could actually take your 3D models and paint them in 3D form. So easy to paint directly on the 3D model, instant preview of textures on the 3D shapes, full use of Procreate brushes and effects, quick export of texture maps for other programs, but here's the kicker, it only accepts OBJ. So that's one thing to note. So I'm going to quickly go over how to export those FBXs. If we go here to our website, you're going to go to your assets folder. Actually, no, let me backtrack. How do I get those assets? So for example, if you're going to go to the item inventory, create that avatar item. I know this is kind of like a weird step, but this is basically how you extract those FBXs. Let's say I wanted to, use this t-shirt. Quickly just make a template. I just type in white so that it's just one flat color. It's a little confusing, but there's a reason why I need to do it this way. Because if I were to try to save this item without putting anything on it, it won't, you won't have the option to save it. But this is the only way you can actually extract those FBXs. Letting it load. It's just gonna make a kind of like a white fabric. And sometimes these come out really good too. Now I can go ahead and save this item. Takes a minute to load. I also have too much going on in my PC. Let me lighten that load really quick. Okay. So it says your item has been created. So I'm gonna go ahead and set the price and details. You do not have to truly list this. You just need to fill in the blanks so that it actually works, right? Just the textures. We can only play around with the textures. I'm gonna just do T1. Lowest price would be 75. I'm gonna just click this off because you don't want this to randomly go into the marketplace. And then I'm gonna press save, letting that load. Okay, cool. So now I'm gonna press okay. I'm gonna go to where it says my assets. And then you're gonna go to where it says avatar items. Cool. Now you can see all your items. If you had already saved out this item, all you need to do is just kind of like save it from here. But I am going to find that item I just made. So it's this t-shirt template. And down here, you're going to find where it says files. And this gets a little tricky, so definitely pay attention to this. So I'm going to press download, right? I just downloaded it. I'm going to take that weirdly named item here, and I'm going to drag it into my folder, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just, whoops, it went away. Come back to me. All right, right here. Well, it would be easier if I just drag it to the folder. Nice, like that. And so what you're going to do is you're going to need to rename this file. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this rename button, and I'm going to type t-shirt temp 1 dot, this is the important part, FBX, because it's going to tell your computer, your PC, what file type it is, because it wasn't listed in the naming convention. So if I press enter, now my item has been turned into that 3D object that we need. So now we have an FBX. The only thing is Procreate does not take FBX, so we need to fix that. We're going to open up Blender really quick. Blender. Open up the Blender. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and AX delete everything in the scene. I'm going to drag and drop my item here, press import. And now we have some funky things happening, right? Some real, like, what is that thing? And I'll tell you what that is. It's a rig, right? This is basically the skeletal makings of our avatar clothes. If you dive deep into how to make avatars, you'll know that even the clothes itself are going to need a rig in order to be able to move and bend with your avatars. It's really interesting. If you dive deep into that, I absolutely love that. Yes. But we don't need that. However, I would not try to delete this because things happen. So for example, if I were to press delete, now I have something really weird going on, but we don't need that to happen. So I'm going to Control Z and just leave that as is. So in the Blender space, I'm going to just click on my t-shirt and I could just export that. So I'm going to do File, Export as that OBJ. And I'm going to find my folder that I've designated just for this project. I'm going to go ahead and type in t-shirt. T-shirt 1 template or whatever you need, export that wavefront OBJ. Now, what I usually do to streamline from my PC to Procreate itself, I use a Google Drive. So if you have a designated Google Drive, if you want to sit there and just make templates out of everything and convert them to OBJ, that way it's quickly accessible to your Procreate. You can absolutely do so, right? And I feel like you guys would be able to know how to use the Google Drive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my iPad onto my PC really quick. Here we are in Procreate. Okay, so basically how you import into Procreate, once you've downloaded your file onto your iPad from your Google Drive, then you're going to need that to find that file from your iPad to Procreate. So all you need to do is just press import, and it's in my recents. In this case, I have already pre-done it, so I'm going to press this t-shirt OBJ. And now I have my t-shirt in 3D space in Procreate. And it's really cool. So like I can take this paintbrush and I can start really making my fashion, and what's cool about Procreate is you have a library of uh really nice brushes. There's a new update too. So they actually improved a lot of the features on the brushes, and it actually happened today, to be honest. So like if you guys want to play around with that, I would highly recommend doing so. I would love to see what you guys make. I'm just gonna keep doodling because I'm really liking the direction I'm going here. So let's just be like Bob Ross and make happy trees. And if you make a mistake, make it into a happy cloud. I hope somebody in the chat has watched Bob Ross. Alrighty, so now I have a really cool t-shirt. But sometimes drawing in 3D does not really help, right? Let's say if you want to be really specific on what you make, you're going to want this to be flat, right? So I'm going to show you how to do that. Hold on, still. It's not pretty, but it's mine. Okay, so can you adjust materials? So you can adjust materials in Procreate. Let's say if you wanted to like do a render of this t-shirt, like you totally can. However, you cannot adjust the materials in like for the editor. Like you can't. I wish you can. Like if you wanted to replace metals with woods and stuff, you cannot. So that's the one downside of this, unfortunately. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we want to draw on this t-shirt in 2D form. So how do we do that? We're going to go ahead and going to go to here, to this wrench here, and then we're going to go to this tab. So normally you would start here. You're going to click on this 3D tab. Then what you're going to do is you're going to slide this 2D texture, and now you have your texture in 2D, which is really cool. So now, not only have you laid out the foundation with your brush, you can now do your artwork. So for example, create a new layer, find a really cool, oh, they made a new library. Really neat. All right, so here are a bunch of brushes that I found online. There are a bunch of free ones that you could find. You can also find a bunch on Etsy. So there are some like private creators that make these on their own. Tons of really cool like choices to like, look at this lace. The lace is super cool. I also have fabric. I also have stitches, you know, like there are so many choices. I'm going to play around with, I usually like to play around with these stitches, right? Let's say I'm going to go ahead and, I don't know, choose this green one here. Now, making it really gaudy now, and that's okay. And then you can take, whoops, that's not the right size. Then I'm going to have to lower the size here and try this again. Now I'm making a really cool artsy shirt. And I could do that in the back. So yeah, your creativity will take you far with this, you know? I can also do the sleeves. It's not straight, but you know, it is what it is. And now I can take this further, make some more layers, and that's what's beautiful about Procreate is you're working with layers, so you can really beef up your artwork. Let's see, I want to, I don't know. I usually like to use syrup for the inking, and I don't know. I'm gonna make a flower. I'm gonna make it quick though. It is so ugly, but I don't care. All right, cool. And then I can go ahead and do this. Just drag the color in. And what's cool about Procreate too is you can use alpha lock. So for example, I go to the layers option, I tap, and then I go down to alpha lock. And what alpha lock does is that you can actually mask around the item you just created. And instead of using this guy can be a pain, but if you were to just use your shape that you just painted, now you can like really streamline what you're trying to do. So for example, let's say I wanted to do like a really cool gradient inside. I'm going to go ahead and go to airbrushing. I usually like to use airbrush, soft brush, and take this guy. Whoops, too big. And now I could do some really cool stuff. And it's all masked out, so you don't have to worry about erasing outside the lines. You could take it further and just, you know, add some more detail, so on and so forth. Look at that. Really pretty power. Okay, and another thing you could do with Procreate is you can also duplicate. So let's say I wanted more pretty flowers. I can click on this arrow icon up here. Whoops. I am skipping myself here because I have two things selected. Select this arrow icon, and then I can turn and basically make it into a pattern. Duplicate again, arrow icon, so on and so forth. So cool. Alrighty. So yeah, like this is a very powerful tool, a very robust tool, multiple brushes available to you, and you can take your iPad and my favorite thing to do is binge watch my favorite show on my bed and just doodle on this iPad. So yeah, I highly recommend, if you do have one, just use it. All right, so let's see this item in 3D form. So I'm going to click on this wrench, turn off this 2D texture, and now I see my item in its true form, which is really, really neat. Alrighty, cool. And so now what I'm going to do is, now that I'm super duper happy with what I've made, I'm going to go ahead and go to this wrench and go to share. And then I would have to not share image. So this is a little tricky. This is something to definitely pay attention to. Like if you were to want to share the image, I'm going to export this PNG, save image, and then if I were to go on 1 second. All right, cool. So if I were to click on that, there you go. You have it just saves out just the image of like a screenshot of your item, which is pretty cool if you wanted to use that, for kind of like a screenshot to display on like your socials and stuff like that. You could use that for that. However, that's not what I want to use that for. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to click on this wrench, and down here it says share textures. So I'm going to go ahead and share that texture, and I'm going to save to files. I can save to my iPad if I wanted to, or I could save it to the drive. Now, saving it to the drive, it will streamline you all the way to your PC. So for example, now when you save the texture, I'm going to show you really quick. It does save the PBR materials, which is helpful if you are using your Procreate to kind of like stylize 3D objects for your Horizon worlds. You could totally use Nomad Sculpt. If you have ZBrush, you could use all those tools to create models. That's for another time though, and I would love to show you guys how to do that because it's actually super fun and freeing. But as you can see, you can get your roughness, you can get your metalness, I believe emissive. I haven't played around with that, but you could do a lot of stuff with Procreate. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to save, I'm going to download this, and then I could just easily drop that into here. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that in. File too large. Oh my goodness. That's okay. I could just pull up Photopea and resize my item. I must have not paid attention to the size output for that, and that's okay. Easily fixed. It's a little extra step, but that's okay. You could easily just adjust the size in Procreate. I'm gonna do file. I'm actually no, I'm gonna do adjustments, image size. Yeah, it was a 2K image. Right. Okay, cool. File, export PNG, and save. Cool. Now I'm saved. I'm going back here, drop that in, and there you have it. Now I have my one-of-a-kind t-shirt that I've made just from Procreate, and it's super cool. So Now, like I could take this texture, I can make as many textures as I want before I actually post these. So like you're not limited to one at a time, guys. Like you don't need to do that. You could just keep doodling. You don't have to go back and forth to your PC. Make a file, make a folder of all your designs, and then when you're ready to upload them, like mass upload them. Just sit there and just upload them. Put descriptions, like really have fun with it. So it can be efficient.